Extreme might be getting out of hand with the number of things we're trying to do at once. Yeah, no, it's... I can understand it though. I kind of thought my streams would be more like that, just because that's kind of how my attention span usually goes. Yeah, exactly. I kind of thought that's how my streams would go, because that's how it goes when I'm playing games myself, you know? I'm just like, I'm playing this thing for half an hour, and then I switch to something else, then I switch to something else, then I switch to something else, and I switch to games, speaking of switching things. Oh god. Fragile dreams. Why is my keyboard all the way over the other side of my desk? I could move it, or I could stretch. Move this so I can see chat better. I feel like my streams used to be focused, but something went wrong over the summer and I've not recovered. I think it's fine. I think also the thing is, at the moment, Persona can sometimes take up a lot of time and sometimes can't, or sometimes doesn't. So you need to, you know, have something else. And I think whether you intend this to be the case or if you just kind of intuit it and it kind of happens, I think a lot of the times you're playing Tekken instead of RPG Maker is when the chat isn't as super active. Because RPG Maker works best when the chat is like super active, which makes sense. Whether it's you specifically going, the chat isn't active, I'm going to play Tekken, or if it's just your brain being like, I should just play Tekken. I think it kind of works. Yeah, and time left as well, because I mean, making games takes time, and RPG Maker, as relatively intuitive as it is still pretty old, and it can take some time to do stuff. Especially if you're trying to do it on stream. Oh right, there's audio at the weird mode. I forget that every time. Okay, so there's nothing all the way up here. Oh no, this is a gate. But it's locked. That makes sense, right. There was a door back there, I just wanted to see if there was anything up here. I don't know if you remember last time, but last time in this game we got out of a shopping centre, got attacked by a kid called Crow who stole our locket that had all of our fun memories in it, and then chased Crow through some terrible minigames for a bit, and then we caught Crow, and Crow was like, I'm just a sad boy, and then he kisses you. I need to look at this. Give me that. Got a mystery. Kinda worked out nicely having something I can own it. Yeah, I agree. I think it makes sense. But as far as I can remember is the Crow boss fight, he gives the big friend kiss and then runs off. Yeah, that's him. Well, this doesn't look spooky at all. I don't think there's any enemies in this bit, but I'm sure there will be soon.
Hey, is this?
A ring pillow.
Father?
Everything worked out at the hotel. They said we can hold a wedding there.
Oh no.
Really? That's wonderful.
Oh,
I'm
no.
so happy.
What's that?
A ring pillow. Your son brought it over and told me to use it in the ceremony.
I'm sorry, but it just looks so familiar to me.
Oh, you. Don't tell me you've forgotten.
Wait a second. Is that the same one we used?
None other. It's the same one you used on your wedding day. See, here's your initials embroidered on it.
Well, I'll be.
can't believe he doesn't even remember his own ring pillow.
It's funny.
Also, I only
Who'd have
just
ever
realized
guessed
that
I'd
that
have your
artwork's
wife's
still on the
initials?
screen. But your fantastic poster is still there. I'm just gonna leave that there.
I'm so sorry it had to end up like this.
Please.
I didn't even
Don't
look at
say
the screen
things like
layout. I was
that.
just like,
There's nothing to
let's
apologize
get straight into the
for.
game.
I really am happy. When it comes down to it, I'm getting a whole new family.
A new
Whole
family.
new family.
Huh.
Father, I just want to thank you so much
It is a sad reminder on the side. That was a
For?
genuinely sad moment.
for raising such a fine son.
That moment
and-
is the reason I really wanted to keep playing this game.
For
Like over the last week when I've not been
accepting me.
streaming, I've been like, I really want to
I
get
just
back into this
know
game
we'll be
because
happy.
that moment hit me. Oh, I skipped that bit. Oops. But that moment like was genuinely sad in a way I wasn't expecting. I'm like, this game might have something to it.
It's such a wonderful day.
Whereas this guy's terrifying. I keep meaning to check if this chicken guy, like, if his voice actor, one, is a person that you can look up, and two, if he did anything else. We have some of these, right? Does it not show you how many you have in your inventory? I thought it did. No, it doesn't. Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure we stocked up on stuff already. Oh, I guess we can go sell to items, see what we've got. We have 4 bamboo swords. The resolution fucked that up for me there. That looks so much like a 1 on my screen. I don't know how clear that is on the stream, but on my screen that looks so much like a 1 until you zoom in on it slightly. Like, these look the same, except there's a slight line here. Then once you zoom in, it's fine. So 4 bamboo swords, 1 iron pipe, 1 slingshot. We can maybe get a second slingshot. Oh, we have a bunch of these butterfly nets, which is good. Full screen discount, and they look like 1 to me. Yeah. Yeah. Let's get another slingshot if we can afford it, because this game makes us do more range stuff. Oh, we can... Oh, we can't afford it. Just in case. Might as well have a second one, just in case we break
Have a
one.
nice day.
Oh god, his voice acting is so good. I love the weird creepy chicken man. Maybe my favourite character in this game. It's gonna be very sad when he dies. Imagine if they kill the chicken man and like we have to try and fit his entire giant chicken head into our locket so we can remember him. Try to think what poster I'll edit for him. I don't know. Oh, there is spooky
What
laughing
was
coming
that?
out of the remote.
Sounded like a voice. Yeah, what?
Oh, there was a voice. I keep clicking through too early. Find that voice. I genuinely love this as a mechanic. Like, this is such a like Wii game mechanic, and oh, these motherfuckers. I hate these enemies so much. Just found the little chicken run poster. That's the thing that I'm surprised I didn't have was when I was looking for my Game Boy games, I had the Chicken Run game on Game Boy Color, which I distinctly remember because I traded in a copy of Dragon Quest Monsters. Was it Dragon Quest Monsters? Whatever the Game Boy Dragon Quest game was, where you like collected them, kind of like Pokemon. I think it was Monsters. I traded that in for a copy of Chicken Run for the Game Boy Color because I was a fucking idiot child. And to be fair, I had finished the game multiple times. Oh god, I will look at chat in a minute. Oh. I hate these enemies so much. They have so much health. And they just run up and kick you. Come on. Please just die. Alright, I think that's all of them. Okay, let's look at chat briefly. Are those ghost trousers? I love it. Yes, they are. They're little ghost trousers. Welcome in, Thongman. Congrats on your GTRP stream, by the way. It was very fun to watch. Even as someone who has not been following that character, because I've not been following those GTRP things in so long, it was very well done. You can 100% do this mechanic on most modern systems too, like my PS5 controller goes off or something. Yeah, you could. Yeah, the PlayStation definitely ripped off this having a speaker in the controller thing, and I think it's a fun gimmick. One almost wear a headset and playing those. Yeah, I do agree with that. I actually kind of hate I don't think they do it anymore, but the PS4 in particular, the audio that should come out through the speaker used to default to like full volume if you had headphones on, and it was the worst. I bet that Dragon Quest game was worth a lot. Let me tell you how much it was worth in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was worth roughly like 70% of a copy of Chicken Run for the Game Boy Color, because my dad also had to pay some money for it. But yes, I bet it's worth a lot of money now. Thanks, glad you joined. Yeah, thank you again. It was really good. It made me want to watch a lot of GTA RP stuff again, because I don't know, man. I got out. I used to watch so much of that shit. And I got out. I've been clean for so long. This is the fan. A really grotty looking fan. One of my favourite control speakers was Final Fantasy 14. I don't play a console with controller, to be honest, but it does this thing where if you queue up for duty. Yes, it does do that. I do remember that. That's a very handy one. I have literally went and done other stuff while sitting in the DPS length queues for duties before, and just taking my controller with me so that I can hear when the duties like paired. Where did I go off? I think it was basically just telling me not to go through here. I missed entirely what that just said. Oh god, this tensor bar is not liking me pointing that high. It's so easy to miss a duty, and it's such a good quality of life to have that sound. Yeah, it's great. I need to get back into Final Fantasy 14. I need to do it. You're probably amazed at even DPS queues. That's crazy. So she's up here? Oh, she's spooky. Or tank main, but I play DPS most of the time with randoms, and it's really much better. That's good. Because yeah, when I was playing it, I had to wait ages to get in the DPS and use the DPS, because I only played as a bard. Oh jeez, die. I think there's another one behind me. No, it's just this one. Okay, I thought there was two. I guess there's just one. This door might open. Oh, do all the doors downstairs open as well? See if there's like a ton of hotel rooms we have to look in, there's going to be some mechanic around that. There was fireflies there. They're gone? Oh, it's there. I don't have space for it though. Shit. How much health do we have? Let's see what okay, we're not low on health, but we could always eat an old instant lunch. I didn't eat it, I trashed it. I just sat and did that, and I don't know why I did that. That was the dumbest thing I've done with that. Anyway. Let's just pretend that didn't happen. I ate it, we have full health now. Don't worry about it. We have space to pick this up, but we have to actually look at it. Why is it actually making us look at items now? It was not doing this before. Used to just be able to run up on them. Back in my day. Can we hit the light switch? No. That would be fun. But no, when I was playing Final Fantasy XIV, I was playing as a bard, and then... Oh god, the dog respawned. And then I kinda wanted to change to use it to be a Dragoon, just because jumping's fun. I ended up just sticking with Bard. Find the source of the voice. Oh, thank god there's a bonfire right here.
Achoo! I hope I'm not getting sick. Hey, could this be?
Could this be? We got strange red drink. They got rid of most of the animation lock on Dragoons now. Neat. I just wanted to play as a Dragoon because jumping
got the green
high
light,
is fun.
Dad. They said we're free to use it.
That's all I needed.
Is that so?
Yeah, look. They even gave me the key to the chapel.
My issue is just I didn't want to level up in our class. They have like 4 jumps now. That does sound
This is
pretty
okay
good.
with you?
You are selling me on this, Crash.
I know the hotel staff already said they wanted to spend their last moments on their own. And I doubt we'll have any guests.
Alright, this wedding's happening as the world is ending.
Well, I expected as much, but all the same.
Trust me, it'll be fine. Just you, me, and her. The 3 of us is all we need. Oh, almost forgot. Sorry to ask you this, Dad, but could you tell her that we can hold the ceremony?
You want me to do it?
You know how it goes. It's bad luck for the bride and groom to see each other before the wedding. It's a tradition. I'm sorry to pull this on you, but I'd really appreciate it.
All right, then.
Given
Thanks,
he's
Dad.
the one that's been a consistent character between these 2
I owe
flashbacks
you
so
one.
far, we're definitely going to be finding the ghost of the dad.
You little rascal. Now you're making me blush.
It seems to be how these have worked.
The day of the recital at the ballet school I attended, despite
Where
my
we not?
insistence that he come, Mao didn't show up. While on stage, my eyes were fixated on the audience, and being so
Codette.
distracted, my feet tripped up my classmates and made a mess of the performance.
Oh no.
I went home completely dejected, only to find Mao waiting in front of my house. Mao, why didn't you come today? I demanded as I ran up the steps to him. Mao replied with, well, you know, what was that supposed to mean?
It's a good response.
More importantly, look at this. Mao showed me the inside of the white plastic bag he was holding. What was supposed to be more important?
They're called moonlight mushrooms. They light up at night. And if I can figure out what causes that and blend it with the genes of the bellflower...
Mao's dirt-smeared cheeks were flushed with excitement. It angered me like nothing ever before. Mao had ditched my recital to go hunting for mushrooms in the ravine instead.
This Mao guy seems like he sucks.
I swung my hand up and knocked the bag from Mao's grasp. Dirt flew from the bag, and a rain of mushrooms fell to the ground. Mao looked at them with the saddest expression on his face. Imagine that. Mao was more worried about some mushrooms than about me. He could marry them for all I cared.
That seems like he
You
sucks,
look
but
like
this
an
also
idiot
seems like a bit of
obsessing
an
over some
overreaction.
pathetic mushrooms. I'm just a waste of your precious time, aren't I? Unlike me, your plants don't tell you to come to recitals. They won't make fun of you or tell you to do your homework. You only need to look after them when you want to. You only turn to your plants because you're no good with people. You may have a dream for your future, but don't step all over mine.
This all seems harsh.
I know. I was taking out my frustrations from my poor performance on Mao. My own dreams weren't going as well, so I was looking down on Mao's. It was a lowly thing to do. But I didn't want to apologize. I left Mao standing there as I ran inside and locked myself in my room. I had hung up my drawing where everybody could see it on my wall. The one of me as an
That is
adult,
a fun fact.
dancing in the field of lantern blossoms. That drawing of Mao's and my dreams coming to reality was a treasure to me.
We did just see a drawing on a wall of some kind of shadow person with a big demon version of them in a shadow underneath, so
When I
maybe
tried to
related.
peel it off the wall, the picture tore. For a moment, I felt extreme remorse, but I refused to give in. Took the torn drawing and ripped it to shreds before dumping it in the garbage.
Seems like maybe there's multiple stories going on in this hotel, which makes sense because, you know, it's a hotel, you know. I wonder if we missed stuff. I don't really want to go back down and check because I just don't want to go back down and check. But I wonder if we missed anything in the floor below, because there was at least like 3 or 4 doors there, and I don't know if any of them opened. But it's not all the way back over there. This looks like a place you'd fight people, so let's come back there later. There's a dog up here. There might be multiple dogs up there. Oh no, it's just one big one. It's kind of hard to tell whether it's like one enemy or a bunch of enemies based on the noise that comes out of the Wii Remote sometimes. You should send Mikey in, yeah. You deal with these dogs in no time. But yeah, this mechanic where, again, it doesn't come over across super well on stream, but as I'm pointing the flashlight at things, noise is coming out through the speaker on the Wii Remote.
Who is that? Where are you?
I think my microphone filter is on again. I'll double check. But I'm gonna leave it on because I'm still a bit like coffee and sniffly. So I'm gonna leave filter on because it kind of does catch a lot of that. But it does mean that you're not gonna hear the Wii Remote speaker stuff, which is unfortunate. But yeah, the way the mechanic works is you point your flashlight at stuff. The Wii Remote makes noises if you're pointing in the right direction, and they're louder and quieter depending on how close you are to being in the right direction. It's really simple, but it's a really good mechanic, I think. Like, I really like it. That's a painting. That's not a painting. That's like a fire alarm. What mountain's this?
Wait a minute, wait a minute! That was a too sweet! Everything is evil!
Thank you for the raid. Did the alert not play there? Like the sound did, but I didn't see it. Oh, my alert box is like below. Give me a second. Give me a second. I'm gonna reorder this stuff. Move that to the top. Alright, Chronicle. Thank you for the raid. Let me get you your proper alert for that. You deserve it. And a shout out as well. You hate clowns. I did watch a little bit of you fighting the clowns. Let me tell you, as someone who did not know what was going on there, it was very funny to hear you and other people in that chat be like, oh, I've got too much clown energy. I clowned. Do Mario 4. I'm like, what is this? What is this raid? Let's hit this button.
Wait a minute, wait a
There we
minute.
go.
That was too sweet. Everything is evil.
And the shout out as well. Let me give the shout out. I put my keyboard like way across the desk. My desk's not that big, but it's big enough I need to like reach over to get to the keyboard if I do that. So I don't know why I keep doing it. But yeah, I was actually watching some of that before I started streaming. It seemed like nonsense. Sometimes I mess people up for Mario going Doki Doki Panic. You probably shouldn't do that when you're trying to like achieve a thing and work as a team, but that is also a very funny thing to do. Alright, well, we're going to talk to this ghost lady. It looks pretty cool, I think. I hope she's nice.
Don't say I didn't warn you.
Oh god. Maybe she's not nice. Maybe she's actually a big creepy mask. Where you at, buddy? Ah, you're there. I just noticed these masks are like big red versions of those jellyfish things, but wearing a mask. Which I believe at the start of the game we were told these were like emotions. Always with the masks, yeah. But we've fought these couple of them. I was gonna say we've fought these couple of times now, and they've not been too bad. I'm kind of surprised we're fighting this at the start of this though. Because for Crow, this was like it was basically the boss fight at the end of the Crow section. So maybe this is a really short section. Oh god. Also, he doesn't show up unless I'm pointing my flashlight at him. That's why he keeps vanishing like that and sneaking up behind me. Why are you over there? You have range attacks. Please don't have range attacks. Because I don't have my slingshot on me. I mean, I do, but I don't want to switch to it. It's a lot of effort. Oh, god damn it. He keeps doing that. We don't have a dodge. I really wish we had a dodge. We do have... What does this do? Should I just drink this strange red drink that I don't know what it does? Answers in chat. Even though I know what the answer's going to be. Should I explain what Mario is? We need one person to debuff themselves so much they turn into a clown and go into the middle of the arena. They will have to do a platforming minigame and destroy balls to people to their side. That's great. This game seems great. Right, I'm drinking this. No one answered, but I know what people would say. It increased our attack. It didn't heal us. God damn it. Let's wash down that red drink with some delicious water. 300 HP. That was overkill. We should not have wasted that. But we would have died when he does this. I see as I kill him in one hit. Oh. Yeah, Croco, that sounds fantastic. Not having that context and just hearing you all be like, oh, I need, you know, I've got too much clown energy, or I turned into a clown, I, you know, didn't manage to do Mario 4, Mario 4's hard. It was, I don't know, very hilarious. I already forgot what that key said. It said the specific room, right? 301. Whoa. Right. Let's go. I guess we got that girl's hotel room key. Sounds kind of dodgy when I say it that way, but I mean, she gave us the room to our key, or the key to our room, so we presumably have to go meet her there. By gave, I mean we beat up a weird floating mask thing and got it. This says room linens. I don't think that's the right room. Why are you messing with the ghosts? Look, the ghosts are in my way. Oh, there's nightmare. I was like, there must be something here. Look at this window. It's sunny outside. It's so weird for this game. This game has like taught me that, hey, everything should be at night with a weird fucked up sky that looks really pretty. So the fact that we came into this area and the first thing is like, hey, it just looks normal. It's just like a kind of normal, sunny, like kind of wooded area. It's kind of crazy. 3rd floor. Wait, is that saying we're on the 3rd floor or that lift goes to the 3rd floor? Wait, this door open. Oh my god, open the fucking door. Open the door, Seto. Oh, nice. See, look at this. This is just like normal. Oh, except for all these evil bards. Oh my god, where's the slingshot? Look at all this sunlight you're not letting in. Need the changing rooms here. That's it. We need to fix this hotel up. We have a bard infestation. We're dealing with that first. Oh my god, I'm not dealing with it very well though. These look closer to the kind of birds that Crow should have had around them, rather than the fucking pigeons that he had before. They still don't look very crow-like, but they're the right colour at least. Whereas those last ones were straight up just grey, like they were pigeons. Sorry for Protomia, I trust crows. If you're the enemy, you must be a baddie. That's, you know, generally true. Crows are very smart birds and they remember when they not only remember, they talk to each other. You fuck with a crow, they will tell other crows. It's kinda nuts. If someone pisses off crows, you don't want to be near them. You saw what crows do to flags. Yeah, that too. Oh, my slingshot broke. Well, I'm glad I bought more slingshots. Oh, I don't have space in my inventory. I broke a slingshot. Surely I should have space. I can't discard it because it's equipped, but that's fine because it's broken, so let's unequip it. Bennett. I forgot that the slingshot was like an actual like Tetris block. Just remember you did good things some too. Yeah, true. Glasgow just going to your flat mess with them. Yeah, exactly. You don't want to fuck with them. I don't know if we had to come out here. I might just came out here and killed some birds for no reason. There's a cool tree up here, which is kind of wild given we're like on the roof of this building. That door's open. No door on this gate. The gate. Doors are broken. I guess we'll just go through this door. Oh, well, even let's go through the door. There might be survivors in the hotel. Oh, is this like the exit? That sounds like a you're leaving the area kind of message. Alright, let's go see if we find that ghost girl again. Find room 301. I think it's kind of cool. You can see the amusement park that we came from. Can we see the shopping center? I guess not really. We can't really get any more of a view. Right, so we came this way around. So we did level up, but we did also break our shit. There's just a dog behind us. I'm gonna assume that means we're on the 3rd floor. Because that's usually what that means in real life. Oh god, dog. Time to unleash our inner Mikey. Oh, maybe we did level up. We leveled up now though. 301, let's go. It was that door we tried to open earlier and was locked. Who could have guessed?
I thought I told you not to come in.
Oh, I thought that was a t-shirt, but I think that's just her. Oh, she's...
I don't get it. Does this mean you're dead?
Give me a break. Why is it that
Oh,
you're
as a
able to
t-shirt.
see me?
It was a very tight t-shirt.
Well, I had no
A very
idea there
tight
was
t-shirt,
anyone
what the
left
fuck?
out there in the world. Persistent little guy, aren't you? Anyway, listen.
Oh no, it's not. She
my
just
name's
has like a
Sai,
necklace
and
thing,
you
or
are?
a not necklace, but
My name's
it goes around her neck and
Seto.
goes down.
Seto,
That
huh?
makes more sense. Yeah, it's not a t-shirt. I saw the collar, but I couldn't see what it connected to, so it looked like it was just a very
Where'd
tight
you
t-shirt.
get that?
Yeah, this game's just kind of horny sometimes.
Well, Grandpa gave it to me.
Look, she
Your
does also look
grandfather?
cool. I can't deny that.
So he survived? How strange.
It's a
But I
cool
guess
design,
he's
if maybe
already
a
an
bit
old
too
man
horny.
now. A lot of time must have passed. Tell me, how's the old man doing? Still active?
He's passed away.
Oh, she knew the little man.
Oh. Hey! What do you think you're doing?
Don't worry, I was just trying to do you a favor. Your body looks so cold. Can I ask you something?
Sure, shoot.
You see, I'm looking for this girl I saw with silver hair. Have you seen her?
Don't ask me. You want a girl? Find it for yourself. You're a
This
guy,
is definitely a
aren't
woman
you?
dress. Look. I went to school with women that dressed like this. I don't know.
Why are you following me?
Can you blame me? I'm bored out of my skull around here. I'd do anything for a good distraction. And besides, I know a lot of stuff. Maybe I could help you. Not to mention...
This ain't too far off
I'm a
from
sucker
the
for
emo-y
keys.
fashion that a lot of my friends were into. If anything, the jacket's a bit much. What school did you go to where they were nothing? They're wide open. I mean, not at school. At school they wore uniform. But look, people that were into the emo-y costume, not costumes. Costume's a bad choice of words for that. But the emo-y kind of style, like, a lot of times you're going out for a night out. People just weren't wearing a whole lot, or they were wearing very revealing, like see-through versions of stuff. I guess I might just say more about the kind of friend group I was in. Right. Hey. Hey. I need you goddamn dogs to stop respawning all the goddamn time. Now, I'm not actually sure where she wanted us to go. Do we get a thing? It just says look for the silver-haired girl. But she's not in here. Well, we didn't check this room before, so we may as well check this room now. Fight whatever attacks is in here. Our very dramatic pose striking every time we stop is so goofy. Yeah, I kind of like it. It's very silly. I mean, she just kind of like swims everywhere and then like... It's like she's got momentum. And she like swings herself up. It's quite a good animation. It's a bit over the top, but it's pretty good. Here we got Mr. M. And this door does not open. Right, let's go fight wherever enemies spawn this time. Oh god. There's nothing else in here, right? Seems like a big wide open space to not have anything in it. Except for like one item hidden down the back, which makes me think we're going to come back here and fight something. The dog's down there. Let's go back outside. See if maybe we can go forward now that we've met her. Can she go outside? Actually, is a good question. I think she can. Crow mentioned her going down to the amusement park, right? Oh, this isn't outside. This is where we found her in the first place. It's so... The animation is so over the top. But I do like the way she just like swims through the air. Oh. She hasn't got him with this dog though. Please tell me these crows have not respawned. Ugh, they have. Let's just run past them this time. Oh, I had way less health than I thought I did.
I still haven't done any.
Oh, we're gonna lose a lot of progress here. Whoops. Whoops. Last end of the game. Right. We need to go... We need to fight the mask thing again.
Who is that?
Yeah, it's dangerous. There's a big mask here, I know. Well, I guess we'll learn if we can skip cutscenes. Which we haven't had to do up till now.
Don't say I didn't.
We cannot skip it all the way. Right, let's do bear in this fight, I guess. Here to get me banished again. Where are you at, buddy? have to use that ball of water again. I guess I could probably use my slingshot and fight this thing from a distance, right? Where's the fun in that? I don't know, I like this weapon, but it does so much more damage than the other weapons do. Okay, we need to heal. Well, this was a good opportunity to not waste this bottle of water, but I didn't think that far ahead. We got the key. To get the key, go get the ghost girl, and then we'll save to make sure this doesn't happen again. Also, I reread your comment there, Crash, and I realised now the confusion there. Because she's not wearing nothing under her top, under like her jacket thing. She has the top on. Which I think is where the confusion goes between me saying people do dress like this sometimes. But it's kind of hard to see because her skin is so pale compared to her white top. But she's not. She has red markings on her, but if you look closely, she has like a very thin
I don't get it. Does this
top
mean
over
you're
her
dead?
chest. That I assume goes up and connects. I don't know why I'm overthinking her clothes, but I assume goes up and connects to whatever's on her neck. Although it might just be a bracelet she's got on her neck that's just like white cloth.
I had no idea there was anyone left out
The
there.
thing that's unrealistic about it is the top that she's wearing is
insanely
insanely tight, like unrealistically tight.
Listen, my name is
Yeah, I can understand not being able to see it in mobile
are?
because it's
My name's Seto.
basically the same color as her skin because it's so pale. It's a weird choice. It's definitely look. Regardless, he's way too horny.
Well, Grandpa gave it to me.
Your grandfather? So he survived? How strange. But I guess if he's already an old man now.
Oh right, she didn't know
a
the
lot
old
of
man.
time
I
must
just
have
talked over this
passed.
last time because we were also discussing her
Tell
clothes.
me, how's the old man doing? Still active?
He's passed away.
Oh. Hey!
I do like that she just
What
has
do you
like a
think
weird
you're
like
doing?
pig toy stuck to her arm.
Don't worry, I was just trying to do you a favor.
It's the really good
Your
phenomenon.
body
Yes.
looks so
True.
cold.
Also, I don't. Oh no, I can't skip this. Right. When you feel like you've lost the way, hold the Wii remote to speaker. I skipped over this. She's called Sai. Let's hear what she says.
Heads up. There might be some creepy enemies lingering inside. Keep an eye out.
That's helpful. So I guess we don't need to look outside. We just need to stay inside.
Man, I'm getting sleepy.
You know, the last character that helped us out and that we could talk to through the Wii remote, she didn't last too long. Sai is already a ghost, but that doesn't, you know, her body's still there. Which I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse about her chances. Maybe worse. Let's go check downstairs. I guess we're going to check these rooms. Oh no. fuckers. I like this game, but if I could just never fight these enemies again, specifically, this game would be even better. I would do the crow segment like 4 additional times if that's what it took to never fight these enemies again. Like if there was some bug that said, hey, if you redo the crow segment a bunch of times, you never fight these again, I would do that in an instant. They're just so annoying. Slightly less annoying since this weapon has this kind of AoE attack, but also they heal. Oh god, I thought she was like about to dive kick me in the back of the head there. I was like, damn, she's turned on me already. I barely know her. Right, this door's still open, right? This is just a door. Right. The frame rate. This seems like maybe where we're meant to go. Let's see if we can go in this room first. Doesn't seem to be any enemies in here, thankfully. We got a strange red drink, which gives us additional attack. Let's go see what the other ghost is up to. She looks cool. What cool looking ghosts in this area?
Stop. I won't let you past here.
I'm looking for somebody. So can't you let me through?
No, I don't know you. You're a stranger. I don't trust you.
I feel like she looks more cel-shaded than the other characters.
What a brat.
There's something about the way her face is lit.
We say.
You don't trust me? What can I do to win you over?
I know. Will you bring me the star?
Yeah, sure.
Huh? A star?
I think she's talking about the one on the Christmas tree down at the station mall.
Oh fuck, that's so far away.
So you want me to bring you that star?
Yes.
Okay then. Wait right here.
Oh my god. We have to backtrack all the way back to this.
Guess what?
Oh my god.
There's a shortcut to the station mall by taking the roof stairwell.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, game. I think we can't go through here. Yeah. It'd be funny if she just vanished. We're like, yeah, we'll do that. And she's vanished. We're like, great, let's go. Fuck it. She's out of the way. The game heard me and was like, delete that. Like, just like, shift click that whole section of the game where we wanted them to backtrack, delete it, and then it'll be fine. Game's better. 8 out of 10. Would it be a 7 out of 10 with that?
Maybe I'll sit down.
It's a good idea. I meant to actually check how far into this game we
Could
are.
this be?
I think we're like halfway. A blue drink. Increases HP by 10. I wonder if that increases your overall HP. Imagine a dynamically shaping game like that. That was kind of there's been games that have done that. Oops. I mean, not based on people saying stuff in the game, but that was kind of how Left 4 Dead worked. Not massively. They kind of didn't make as massive changes as they said they were gonna, but the whole game director stuff in Left 4 Dead is meant to, oh god, it changes the enemy spawns based on how you're playing, but the idea was it was meant to also block off areas, I think. I don't think they ever actually really used that though. Right, fuck these crows. Stay on my way. I don't want to fight you. Fought you before. I don't think we leveled up. since we reloaded that save. Anyway. I feel like I played a game that did do that kind of dynamic changing of stuff. But I'm blanking on what it was. Where does this take us? Takes us to the tree. I guess that makes sense. Oh, there's a room here though. Doesn't seem there's any ghosties in here. We got a mystery item though. That one's probably a story one. Because none of the other ones were. Pretty cool guitar. Maybe not the best condition. Okay, so there's a hole in the ground here. It's good to know that they did model all of the correct floors for where the staircase would go, even if you don't really need to use them for anything. I really appreciate it. As much as I'm not a big fan of like doing tons of backtracking and stuff, and that's why I'm not a huge fan of wait a minute. You say there's a shortcut. Sai, did you mean it takes you out here? This is where we were. I don't think this is a shortcut. Did I miss something? Oh no, it is. Okay. That's where we were. Well, can we open this fence actually? No. Okay, fine. Whatever. Fuck it. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of like backtracking and stuff in survival horror games. Like, I get it's a good mechanic and I get why it works. I'm just personally not a big fan of doing it. Don't mind watching people do it, but not a big fan of doing it. Oh god, my Wii remote. Come on, Wii remote. You can do this. Oh jeez. What the fuck? This fucked up owl is attacking us. I was like, oh, there's a cool weird ghost owl. And then it attacked me. Parts in this game are assholes. It's a big item. I don't have space for it. There's no way I can make space for it. Right. Let's just keep going, I guess. Keep the slingshot out for now. No, actually, we need the slingshot away. Because we can aim your flashlight when you have a slingshot out. And we can't see ghosts if our flashlight is away. Are we back here? Like, is this the place we've been? I feel like I recognize this area. Yeah, this is where we fought the mask thing, right? Oh no, not we fought the mask thing. It's where we left and encountered Crow.
Oh man. Is this?
Torn picture 4. That means we've missed like 2 torn
When
pictures.
I finally spoke to Mal again, it was the day of our high school graduation. I heard from our homeroom teacher that Mal was going to college in some far-off city. It was a college where he could really pursue his study of botany.
Dude's really obsessed with mushrooms.
I didn't want to leave things as they were. After the ceremony,
Actually,
I
doesn't
searched the
studying
school
mushrooms have a different
and
name
found
from
Mal
botany?
by the school garden.
Or is it like a subgroup, I guess? I feel like the study of mushrooms has a specific
It
name.
had been so long since I saw him up
But
close.
maybe I'm making that up.
And he was a lot taller than I remembered. His long, slender fingers were black with earth, and his hands looked weathered. The strap of his canvas shoulder bag had been loosened to its
She's still
maximum
into him.
to let his
You can tell
bag
from
fall
this
to his
description.
hips. Somehow, that was enough to make my heart
Yep.
race. All I had to do was talk like we used to, but my mind suddenly went blank. What did I sound like when we used to talk? Was my voice high? Low? How did I choose my words?
You chose your words, but they were mostly things like, stop fucking picking mushrooms, asshole.
Was I
Probably
curt
wouldn't
with
use
him?
those.
Cute? What was my timing when I smiled or got angry? I had no idea what to say. The graduates and students were laughing and crying together. They called out to each other. Their incessant flow of words echoed through the school halls and reverberated around us. We'll always be friends. Take care. Good luck. Goodbye. Come back to visit. I listened closely to borrow some of their words, but none of them were what I wanted to say. Mal, come down here. That was all I could finally manage to say. After a quick look of confusion, Mal kneeled before me, eyes on mine. There was that familiar scent, the smell of damp earth. Mal always smelled of earth.
You've really
Long
changed your tone
ago,
here.
I used to love napping beside him as he read. It felt like I was lying in the middle of a grassy field. I finally felt like I was with my old Mal and was able to speak naturally. How's your research for the lantern blossoms going?
Actually, my college has fully equipped labs, so I think I'll finally be able to make some sort of progress. Genetic engineering is still a tricky field, so I probably won't be successful right away. I have 1,000,001 things I want to test out, so I highly doubt that 4 years will be enough time.
Once given the chance, Mao's eyes glistened and he rattled on like the old days. His voice was lower than I remembered. He was intense and full of confidence, but there was still a bit of that old, delicate Mao in him, too. My heart was filled with so many feelings. I thought I'd burst into tears. I hadn't even cried during the ceremony. How had I survived being apart from Mao all these years? How could I stand not hearing him? How could I breathe without taking in his scent? Why hadn't I tried to patch things up sooner? And now, Mao was going far away. I would never be able to follow him with my legs. Mao was like a towering tree beside me. He offered me cozy shade, quenched my thirst with dew, gave me fresh oxygen to breathe. He was a gentle, peaceful tree.
Did we miss something where something happened to her legs? Or is that just a really weird sentence? I know she fell over when she was dancing, but I don't think the implication there was that she got like massively injured or anything, right?
Yeah.
Take care where you're going.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Hey, Mal, you
And
still fucking suck,
come and
bud.
Yeah.
I'm still studying photography. And I've even landed some gigs. I clicked the shutter, blown away by the force and breath and energy of the athletes. As a hobby, I've begun shooting trees and flowers too.
Most people start the opposite way around. Because, I mean, look, I'm not going to judge her. Like, athletics is harder to take photos of, like, good on her.
Whenever I capture the workings of life that flowers give off so powerfully, and yet can be so easy to miss if you're not careful, I swear I can smell Mao beside me. Though the year of his graduation came, Mao did not.
Phrasing.
Rumor had it he was staying late at the lab, He was so preoccupied, he'd probably forgotten all about me. I knew deep down in my heart, he never had any intention of keeping his promise to see me again. By that point, he and I had already started to make our way down our own separate paths. I had left my tree called Mal and was already breathing on my own. I'd come to the realization that our dreams no longer fit on a one-page drawing the way they used to. Where did you come from? Where are you going? I'm sure you come from some place I don't know. Going someplace I can't follow. If during your journey you happen to encounter a lantern blossom, I want you to take a moment. Stop and think about the botanist who created it. I'm sure it will have been a young man named Mal. I believe that someday he'll become the most amazing botanist ever.
I like that each area of this game is doing something different with its collectibles in terms of like the story it's telling. But I'm not sure that these incredibly like long overwritten like sections for this part are really doing much for me, I'll be honest. Like, they're cute. Oh yeah, this is where Crow is. We'll go back this way. They're cute and like they're well written. I just think they're a bit long-winded for what they are. Not bad. They're just games love audio log collectibles back. Yeah, but audio logs you used to be able to, you usually at least would walk around and listen to them. At least in the good games. I always disliked audio logs that were like go stand in an area and listen to it. Or go into a menu and listen to it. Oh god, oh god. The grabby hands are back. One of my favorite games for audio logs was actually Metal Gear Solid 5. One, because they were very funny. Well, we did level up twice that last time, because we're level 14 now. We're level 15 when we killed all the birds. We should have killed all those crows. But Metal Gear Solid 5 not only just let you listen to collectibles at any point, or listen to audio logs at any time, you could listen to them on your phone through like the companion app. So that was kind of cool. You didn't even have to listen to them in game. If you wanted to listen to Kaz's journey into burger making, you could do that whenever. Right, this is where we came in, isn't it? No, it's not. This is the entrance to the shopping center. Right, this deal. But yeah, I guess audio logs have kind of become less fashionable again now. Which isn't really relevant for this because this game's like 2 decades old.
We meet again.
Or a decade and a half
Such
old.
a wonderful day.
2 decades old? When did this game come out? Must be like 2013 or something, right? A decade old. Fragile Dreams. 2009. God damn. So, a decade and a half old? Almost. Right, let's buy another slingshot because our slingshot's about to fucking explode. Ooh. There he is, buy a fucking bow and arrow, since that's a thing we can get now. Glad this weird chicken man's willing to just sell this kid a bow and arrow and pills. Everyone knows the old chicken man that used to come around the streets and, you know, sell the kids pills and bows. It's a really relatable experience that everyone had growing up. Kinda annoying that we haven't leveled up as much as we had before I died. But I don't want to go kill the birds again because they were annoying. So for now, let's just keep going. Wait. Alright, wait. I'm gonna get so lost coming back here. We have a map. Should really use it. It's not a good map though. Yeah, this is the fucked up floor. This is the less fucked up floor. It's kind of funny that it tells you. This is a cute map. Maybe not the most useful, but... Okay, so we just want to go downstairs. I do remember wondering before why this route back was there. Because I thought it was that you were going to have to... You'd fall through the floor and then come back, but... No. Actuality was... okay. No fun here. Maybe we can get back this way. How do we get back to the old mall? Or is the Christmas tree in this part? I assume it would show up on the map though. Look for the star. Maybe some storage? Because I guess the game isn't set at Christmas, right? The storage is back here. That's the one we came through. This one goes to storage. Right? No. Opposite. I don't know if this is right. There's a dog in here though. Yeah, see, I feel like that's... Oh. I see. This is storage. The one to the old mall is the way we came from. So we're here just now. That makes sense. So there's a dog in here somewhere. Oh no, it's weird red jellyfish. Are you guys dead? I can never tell with these jellyfish because sometimes they like to just get back up. Okay, I think they're all dead. Oh no, they're not. They are all... See, I told you. Oh, there's so many of them. I should have kept the stronger weapon equipped. Because these are taking so fucking long to die. A step forward attack is so dangerous. When there's jellyfish falling from the sky. I guess we can kind of juggle them. That's the attack I really want. That does so much damage. Right, these two are still alive though. Come on. Alright, that was a longer one of those fights. Yeah, we didn't even level up. And my weapon broke. God damn it. Right, let's equip this. It's stronger anyway. But this one we've already used a bunch. We're gonna have to hit a bonfire at some point. This one's inventory. Let's bin this. Alright, so maybe the Christmas tree's in storage? I kinda suspect it's not. I feel like I remember seeing some like seasonal stuff in the storage or something. Oh my god, there's so many of these jellyfish again. This game decided to get very combat heavy all of a sudden. Alright, you guys are all getting back up. I can see it. Except those two. Well, at least we should hopefully get a level up soon, which would be good. Not that I'm finding these battles particularly difficult, but I mean, still be nice. But picking up that item made me lose my weapon charge. Oh, I didn't even... Alright, we'll level up. It's not even picking up, because I didn't pick up, I was just getting close enough that it showed me my inventory, and that was enough to stop my weapon charging, which is an odd choice. Don't know if I agree with that. Right. My weapon broke, which is not good because we don't have any others. Can you not pick these fucking items up? Buddy? No? Just... Oh, we don't have space in inventory, of course. Alright, well, let's get rid of the one item we have. Oh, I can't, because I still need to have it equipped, because... reasons. Right, let's move this down here, down here. Pick up Mr. M. We can't pick up this Mr. M because it's also 3, so we'll just need to hope for the best. We need to hope that we can... We haven't had to crouch in a while. We hope we can progress.
Star. Where could it be?
It looks like only the star is missing. Hey, what's that?
Are we getting a better torch? Special flashlight.
Huh? Oh. It looks like a flashlight. That's weird. It makes everything green.
Hey now, I think you just hit the jackpot. That flashlight reveals things you can't typically see.
I'm a little worried about this.
Huh? How's it do that?
Well, it's because... Actually, it's a hassle to explain.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Oh, don't give me that look.
This flashlight does a
Just be
thing.
happy
We
you can
didn't really
see
think of a
stuff,
reason
okay?
for why it does it, but you know it does it.
If you think
It's
I'm
a
gonna
game
explain
mechanic.
every little thing, think again. I'm no teacher.
Huh? But... Okay.
It's a game mechanics. How game mechanics work. Don't fucking ask questions, buddy. Okay, reveals mysterious things. Try shining a flashing light or special light on it. Do I need to... Okay, well it's equipped just now, I guess. Okay, so there's nothing new on the tree, which is kind of the thing we care about. It doesn't look like there's anything instantly here. I don't know whether we should be backtracking or going forward. I mean, we're backtracking regardless. But should we be backtracking or backtracking? I I hate this section. So much. I mean, not as much as the crow stuff. But this is slightly annoying. There's a cat over there. And a bonfire. Oh, here we go. All that is pretty is mine. I'll never let it go. Well, given there was a message here, I guess this is the right direction. Let's get a weapon we can use. 'Cause, fuck.
Wow, very cool.
Wow, very cool. Chicken mango shop? Yes.
Fancy meeting you here. A splendid surprise.
Splendid surprise. Right. I wouldn't mind the broom. Oh, a golf club though. We don't have enough of that. Which is a little annoying. Golf club would have been good. 'Cause I think I prefer those style of weapons over the... How much the bamboo sword sell for? Not enough. We could sell all these and we wouldn't even be close. What about these guys? Even less. Yeah, we're not got enough. It's fine. Sorry, chicken man, we're not buying anything today.
Well then, this is goodbye.
Okay, we need to whip this briefly. Bend this. Stick this key into storage. I don't think we need all these drinks. We just need the red one. The red one gives us attack. We'll keep this blue one as well. Why not? God damn it. So what we do need is another butterfly net. Sure, put it there. And an iron pipe. Perfect. Then we're going to save, and then I guess we'll go slightly further in, but I think I'm probably going to finish up soon since it's the middle of the night. Which makes this a relatively short stream for a Monday night stream for me, but my throat is still not 100%, so I'm going to do it so I don't lose my voice for the rest of the week. Let's equip this. And even though it's short, it'll still be a couple hours. You can go another 5 hours. I mean, I could. But it would be the only streams I do this week, and I want to stream Game Boy games. It's kind of annoying because I do really like this game. I could just sit and play it the whole time. I was the same with Metroid to some degree, but also Crystal Bears. Crystal Bears I could just sit and play the whole goddamn thing. Where should I hide it? I'll never let anyone have it. This person seems normal. Sure it's not going to be some weird ghost. Not in this game. Oh, these fucking birds. There's so many of them now. Give me my slingshot. This slingshot's gonna break. I can just fucking tell. You fuckers to fuck off. Oh, they do so much damage. Oh, I'm gonna die. Those birds, what the fuck?
Why am I getting so sleepy?
What the fuck? Why do those birds do so much damage? I think this is the most deaths we've had in one stream. I was going to say across any game, but that's not true, because I died quite a lot in some of those later bosses in Crystal Bears. But it's up there. It's definitely the most deaths we've had in this game. You ever got picked by a bird? I imagine it's really sore. I imagine it is. You're not wrong. But we've fought other birds and they weren't as strong as this. Right, we're not even going to flash the light because we know it says blah blah, where would I put it? You're never getting it. Blah. That was the exact words. Fucking birds. Right, I need to... Oh my god. Shoot them. They keep like getting in the way of each other.
There were so many things I wanted to talk to her about.
Also, Seto, you're obsessed with this girl you met for 5 seconds. There's literally like a cute ghost girl following you around. Why don't you make friends with her? Why do you need to find this one specific girl you briefly saw? What the fuck, man? Oops. That's not what I wanted to pick. I know she's on the cover art. But come on, Seto. There are other girls in the world. You don't even actually know this one. You're just following her. It's kinda creepy. Honestly. Right, let's try fight these birds again. Honestly, maybe better not using range attacks against them. Right, 2 down. Where are the rest of you fuckers? Hey? This music sounds like vaguely Majora's Mask-ish to me. I guess it's because kind of spooky music. Come on. This one keeps like fading in and out of existence. Let me hit you. Stop being a ghost. Is there more of you? Oh, something flashed up here. I see you. Oh yeah, stupid ghost bird. Aha! Thought you had me. Thank god that was the last one. Oof. Right, we got revenge on the birds. Let's keep going, we'll stop at the next bonfire. It's no use searching here. Well, I mean... Okay. They were right. It was no use searching there. This isn't this... No, it's not. Here's a cat. That kind of looks like Chio-chan from Azumanga Daioh. Can't believe you do that to the birds. They had it come. They killed me twice. Look, I'm a friend to the birds. I didn't even kill all those birds on that rooftop that one time. This is a cracked floor. What you seek is just ahead. Well, I guess we probably should keep going then. Let's save. Friend of the birds, the shagger. That's it.
It's soothing watching the flames.
It appears we have a special bond, you and I.
This chicken man did not show up for ages, and now he's showed up at like every fucking
I
bonfire.
look forward to our next meeting.
He seems to only show up when I don't have money to buy anything. Right, let's save. Let's go into the next bit, see if the next progression of the story is there. If not, we'll call it. Oh yeah, it's this bit. Are these like... Are these still... Oh yeah, these are the jellyfish from the start of the game. You can one-shot these aliens. Got a mystery out. We're really backtracking like all the way to the start of the game. What the fuck? I don't remember there being anything like this early in the game we couldn't really interact with, so I don't know if there's... I don't know what this torch is going to reveal to us. I don't remember this room. But we must have came in here because there's nothing here now. Maybe in the toilets? We got a weapon in here before. And then there was grabby hands in the girls' toilets, which was always a bit weird, but seemed intentionally weird at least. Where? I wonder if I went the wrong way. This definitely was where the message was, but there's been none down here. Yeah, we killed you already. There's no hidden messages down here. My Wii remote keeps losing track of the pointer as well, which is worrying. Nothing in here. Not even grabby hands. They don't respawn. Probably for the best. Alright, so there's nothing down here. We've come back too far. We've backtracked too much. But that message was definitely on the way here. It's like it was on this wall, right? Now I'm confused. I don't see a star anywhere. And I don't see any more messages. I wonder if we have to go over there? I think we did go over there at some point. Yeah, you're jellyfish, we get it. Probably don't need to go this way. May as well check. Oh shit, I was wrong. Unless this says you went too far, idiot. A whole lot easier with everyone gone. Do they mean stealing stuff is, or do they mean I need to kill
So
everything?
comfy. Hey, is this?
Hi, chicken man. We still don't have enough
Well
money.
then, where should we start?
Where should we start?
Well then, this is goodbye.
His voice reminds me of Lanny Pater from Team 4 Star. Which is obviously not him, because this game's like 15 years old almost. 14 years old? About 14 years old. So I feel like that would have been far too early in his doing real voice acting career. What happened to Bards? Look, the Bards killed us a couple of times. I killed the Bards. Everything's fine. It's older than Demon Souls. You can't keep saying that. It is true though. It invented the bonfire mechanic. Don't miss the rush hour madness. I guess also a potential issue I'm making, or mistake I'm making, is thinking all these messages are the same person. But I think that's an assumption we're going to have to live with for now. We might be stumbling into multiple treasure hunts here. We're still in secondary with this job. You can't say that. That's even worse than the Demon Souls thing. What the fuck? To be fair though, I think I was watching Team 4 Star stuff back then. So you know. How old's Lanipair? This is our second metric of time. First Final Fantasy 14 expansion now. Is it older than Dark Souls? I mean, it's definitely older than Dark Souls. It's older than Demon Souls. The reason the Demon Souls comparison came up is just because this game has bonfires. I think I'm going the wrong way. Shit, every time I say I'm going the wrong way, I find a message. So maybe I'm not. But this game has bonfires, but it came out before Demon Souls. I don't think these messages are connected. I think I'm just... Dogs. I think I fucked up. You son of a bitch. Literally. Not in a gendered way. Just, you're literally a dog. Alright. I think these messages might just be hidden messages that you can find. I don't think they're necessarily all connected. Lanny's 35 now. Yeah, so I guess it's definitely not him, but it does sound like him. Error range, it's a few years older than me. I ain't quite 35 yet. Yeah, I think they're for atmosphere, but I think there are specific ones we need to follow as well. But I think I've backtracked too far now. Like, I don't think maybe Ghost Girl in here stole the star. I don't think we ever need to come back to this fucking warehouse. Train station building. But here we are. I'm gonna see if there's any messages. Or a secret boss fight. Nah, there's fuck all in here. This was a bad move on my part. Almost good. We can't say these things. Does this turn into a weird animal snuff game? I see more killing of animals than ghosts. They're ghosts of animals, for the most part. But look how nice the sky is. Like, that's a really pretty skybox. Like, not just for a Wii game, just in general. Like, look at this. Gorgeous. Anyway. I think I have an idea. But we need to unbacktrack a bit. Hey, you fuckers, leave me. Stop respawning. I should remember what the chicken guy's name was, because he does introduce himself with a name. Leave me the fuck alone. Oh wait. Sai, you're fucking useless. Wait, no, you're not useless. We need to go back. There was a cat there. Oh, Sai, you're a genius. Please don't die like my previous I mean, die more. I mean, you're a ghost already, but please don't. Please don't die. Right. Yeah, don't double die. I've killed enough ghosts in this game that I know that's how it works. But this ghost lady is a fucking genius. You jellyfish get out of my goddamn way. I think that's just passing on. I mean, yeah, passing on with the help of me hitting them with stuff. Which I don't think I'm going to do to Sai, so hopefully that means that Sai doesn't die. Doesn't double die, doesn't pass on. We need... Do we have a cat toy? We do not. Okay, we did all that for nothing. But I think Sai's on something. Every time now.
Valued customer indeed.
I also can't unhear him as Lanipator now, even though I know it's like definitely not
I
him.
look forward to our next meeting.
He would have been like 20 at the time. Right. Need the most important item in the game. Oh, do you think the reason they keep showing up is because it's telling me, hey, by the way, you need to buy cat toys? Just in case, so you don't get like soft locked if you break your cat toy. That's definitely what this is. I thought it was just a coincidence he kept showing up. This is the game making sure I don't get soft locked. I checked the Lanipator page again. There's 2 photos, this professional headshot and Lanipator 2008, nothing in between. That was him, this 2008 and now. Right, I forget how this works. We just have to mash it, right? I don't know if this is working. I thought this would do something. No? Let's try a different cat. Maybe this one? Maybe it comes back. Bit wary. Come on, Akashi. You didn't say hello, or if you did, I missed it. Oh. Play the cat. I didn't. It didn't do anything though. My genius plan to play with cats did not actually pay off. Maybe we already played with that one before. Oh, there's no cat here. Just keep trying to play with all the cats. It's kind of annoying that I always get stuck with this camera angle so you can't actually see the cat playing. Yes, welcome in, Cassie. You've chosen the perfect time because we're lost and don't know what we're doing. Oh, god damn it. The Cassie's here. I have to lunch stream tomorrow. I don't think that's happening. You never know. I don't have a lot of meetings on Tuesday. I think we've got to stay in this area. I thought the cats were the thing. I might be wrong. Birds, leave me alone. There's no use searching here. Yeah, because these fucking birds are going to attack me. Them's the rules. I was really hoping these cats would just like show me where to go. I mean, I've been looking everywhere. This might just be where we call it. This really makes it seem like we have to go into the next area. Alright, that's not useful.
Don't forget to put out the bonfire. You could torch the whole place.
These are. I was really hoping you would actually help us.
Ew! Got a weird hair growing out of your neck. I'll pluck it for you.
Okay. Pressure is not down here. Because nothing seems to interact with the lamp down here. Oh, right. I'm tempted to just cheat on this one. I don't think we've had to cheat in this game so far. Oh no, we did with the crow thing. But I kind of want to know what to do. We are at... Where are we? We've done them all. We've done the... hotel. Back to the mall. There's a few messages on the wall and behind shelves. Let's keep going back. Head round door to the back. We were at earlier. The one where it taught us how to break boxes. Oh my god. It was in like one of those rooms back there. I see. This is just a red herring. This is not related. The incredible plan I had of what if we follow cats. Not a thing. I was just thinking I was being smart. But no. The things Sai says are not tips. She just says random shit. Which is fine. But, you know. I feel like our robot friend was more helpful. Trying this one. Oh, that's... Oh, that's not good. Okay, so I can't hurt them until those eyes open. Hi. Oh, jeez, where'd you come from? Okay, there's at least 3 of them. I need you to do that. Oh no. How did I make them do that? Oh, I'm gonna die. I guess I just need to wait. Seems like they can't take turns about who does the eyeball thing. Still not as annoying as the legs that run around and kick you. But close though. How much damage these things do? These guys are all about positioning. Because we need to make sure we're far enough away we don't get hit, but that we're close enough we can run up and hit them when they come down. Oh, I thought that was the one about to attack me. No, he's dead. Right, I need one of you fuckers to come down. No, not like that. This one really doesn't want to take damage. Not gonna lie though, pretty creepy enemy. Come on. Kinda annoying there doesn't seem to be a way to like force it to, you know, let you hit it. Alright, we got the star. Now funnily,
This
the
must be the star she
tutorial,
wanted.
the guide that I looked at that found this room, described those enemies as an enemy we'd fought before, which I don't think we have. I feel like I would remember fighting those. But anyway, we got the star.
What's she want this for anyway? I just don't get
It's the
what's going
star.
on in that little girl's head. And for being so young, she sure is acting like an old hag, if you ask me.
So you're pretty rude.
I thought all girls liked shiny things.
So you're not be much better.
Well, they don't do it for me. Rather than having some things,
Sai's not like
it's more
those
important
other
to have
girls.
somebody.
Hmm.
What are you staring at? We got the star. Now let's head back.
Alright. I mean, we did find it in here, so your message is bullshit. Nothing respawned in this box, right? This is the box where we got the cat toy earlier. Nah. Let's try not to die getting back to the bonfire. Cause fuck, that'd be annoying. Don't die, don't die, don't die. Don't die. Then I'm gonna head back to the hotel because actually
Maybe I'll sit down.
I will forget. I will forget by next stream. So I had this whole thought that the reason the chicken man kept showing up at every bonfire was because it didn't want us to soft lock because we needed the cats to show us where to go. But no, then none of that was true. He just kept showing up because whatever causes him to show up. I don't know. Anyway, as we backtrack back through our backtracking, we reverse backtrack, we forward track, I guess. Which one of these is the map? We're... Oh my god, it would help if I knew where we were. Oh, it's nice it shows the cats on here. That's kind of silly. That's the bonfire. We went this way. We need to go through storage again. These fucking birds. Fuck you birds, I'm out here. What was I going to say for people who weren't here early in the stream? My plan was originally for this stream to play Game Boy games. If you saw my schedule, that was kind of what the Game Boy turn into Matt Berry for a second there. The Game Boy. The Game Boy, like bonus stream thing I was gonna do is just that I bought an Analog Pocket, which is like a kind of handheld emulator thing, lets you play a bunch of, you know, Game Boy games. Lets you use original cartridges is kind of the gimmick of it. And it's hardware emulation instead of just software emulation, so it's supposed to be more accurate to using an actual Game Boy. But the main thing that's interesting about it for me, for this, is that I bought a dock with it, so kind of like a Switch, you can dock it and then get video out on it. So I was going to capture that, stream, and just a stream where I was just going to go through all my Game Boy cartridges, which I don't have a lot of, because I mostly rented and also traded in stuff when I had a Game Boy. So I don't have a huge number of them, so we can go through them all on the stream and just check out. Oh, this isn't where we're going. We're going to go back here, I think. Right? Oh no, I was right. I don't want to go through. So I figured we'd check out all those games and, you know, see if they all work, for starters, because some of those cartridges haven't been used since I had a Game Boy Color, if not a Game Boy Advance. And it would be cool to see if they work still. Hopefully they'll work. You know, slightly disappointed if they don't. We'll see if any of them have saves, because some of them might, the battery might be dead, so the saves might be dead. Oh shit, this is the way, oh no, this is the way to the hotel as well. Okay, I was like, this is the way to the park, this is where we go. And so I figured we'd do that. It'll be a fun restream. Oh god, these fucking arms. Oh, we're way stronger than we were last time we fought these. There's one shot. Oh, there's so many more of them though. I can't attack this one. These two really just don't want to. But you know, relatable. But yeah, I don't have a ton of Game Boy games, so we'll go through them all, and then that won't take a whole stream. Like I said, I don't have that many of them, so I figure after that we'll probably pick one of them to like go more in depth on. I just looked at the map and I already forgot where I want to go. Yeah, I want to go this way. Oh, this fucking Bart. There's only one of them here, but it's still annoying. But yeah, we'll pick one of them to go into maybe and play more of than the others. I do also have like a flash cart, so we could, you know, we could technically play any Game Boy game. We should collectively choose Zelda. Yeah, I mean, so that's the thing. I bought an Oracle of Ages cartridge. My only meeting for day got cancelled. Good job, Cashy. Good day when there's no meetings. I bought a cartridge version of Oracle of Ages, and I have played up to where we got to on stream, because I only streamed it at one time, so whatever. Wasn't that difficult. And did all the same stuff we did. So Oracle of Ages streams will continue, probably after we finish this game. Yeah, I don't think we can really switch between them. So there's gonna be all these fucking birds again. This is not fight the birds. I don't like fighting the birds. I don't want to fight you. Leave me alone. But yeah, Oracle of Ages streams will come back. This is kind of what I've been waiting for the past couple of weeks. That's been the reason I've not brought them back before then. Why we kind of started this instead of going straight back to those is that I want to, because I'll have the Analog Pocket, I want to be able to play Oracle of Ages and switch to Oracle of Seasons to do all the connectivity stuff, but without message here, without needing to like switch constantly the way that we have to on the Switch, where we have to like back out into the menus and use save states and blah blah. Because I have 2 capture cards and I will have 2 devices, one playing each game. I'll be able to just put them both on screen simultaneously, and we can just switch between them as we need to. Which does mean that 90% of the time we'll just have like Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons in the corner doing nothing, which is fine. But that's my plan for that, but that's going to be a bit off still, because we're going to finish this first, because I am enjoying this, and I feel like if I start playing Oracle of Ages again, I'll get way into Zelda again, and I will not finish this game. We'll just do all Zelda streams and then not finish this, which would be not ideal, because again, I like this game. I want to see where it goes. Like, it's weird. Weird and cool. The frame rate just tanks on this hallway. Every time.
I brought you the star.
We had a question about how we felt about meetings. There were a meeting yesterday, and I was the only one who said I'd like no meetings because they're all silly. I don't like meetings. I don't make it secret. Yeah, that's fair. We had a trial run of no meeting Thursdays recently, and a couple of people higher up seemed like unsure about it, but like the collective agreement, like the collective response when they were like, do you think we should keep doing this permanently, from like the rest of the company, was people being like, yes, 100% yes.
Liar. You couldn't get it. It's too
No
high
meetings,
up to
even if it's
reach.
only one day a week,
There's
just a
no
day that
way
we have
you could've
guaranteed no
gotten it.
meetings. That's perfect. That's great. Best day of the week.
You're wrong. I was with him when he got it.
Yeah. It wasn't at the top of the tree.
They missed the 4-day work week. I don't know if I'm ever going to get that. The company I work for is American. That's not if anything, I'm surprised we're not working 6 days.
You stubborn little brat. Believe what people say for once. You're so
It does
rude.
increase productivity. It's proven to work. They keep trialing 4-day work weeks places and it keeps working. It's weird. Yeah, America's all about that hustle. Yeah, exactly.
What else? What else can I do?
Now, my
to
company is
retract?
legitimately very good about like time off, and they give like a bunch of extra time off randomly sometimes just to be like, you know what, everyone just fucking take this day off, and it's like, that's pretty good. And they're very lenient about like,
Can you bring me the
if you just need a day, take a day. Like, take a mental health day. Yusuf said Scottish public sector gets 4-day work week, so of course HR at my place haven't done anything yet. Of course. Didn't you say they hadn't even heard about it?
What? Now you want the moon?
It was December, so I suspect we're either not in the pilot or we argued against it. Ugh.
Fine. One moon coming right up.
Good. I've seen it in the park lots of times.
We can go park and get a moon this time. I feel like we saw the moon in the park. Isn't it on the... I think it's on the Ferris wheel. Alright, let's go save. We'll do this next time. I feel like we didn't make as much progress as I thought we would. But we did die like 4 times, to be fair. The bonfire's upstairs. There's a bonfire downstairs as well, actually. And we're going out, so... We're going out! Let's go downstairs. Oh my god, yeah, the frame rate just... The frame rate in this game's been pretty solid up until this one little hallway that nothing's happening in. Oh no, it's these fuckers. That door's locked. It's through here. This game actually seems longer than expected. Maybe one of your longer ones. Yeah, I think it is. Wasn't there? Where's the door? Oh, there's a bonfire. Oh, it's that window there. There's a bonfire out front as well. These bonfires are pretty close together. All the bonfires in this game are pretty close together. They're definitely not... Again, as Crash likes to point out, this game came out before Demon's Souls, so they're definitely not going for the Demon's Souls, Dark Souls, like, run from the bonfire to the boss or whatever, but they've maybe went the opposite way, where there's too many bonfires. Yeah, I think we're only like halfway through this game. I think there's still quite a lot left. Maybe slightly over halfway.
Feel free to ask should
I
you
might
ever
look
have
at a
any
guide,
need for my
like
services.
not read the guide, just look at the like, the chapters
Well
on it, see how far we're.
this is goodbye.
Go, I'm like, how do I get a Scottish Public Sector job? Gotta get to Scotland first. Just don't go to my org. We won't exist in 2 or 3 years or something. Oofed. These only last max 3 years, so not an issue for me. That's fair. Probably perfect actually, won't be looking for a long-term person, though the anti-XL stance is still an issue. We've moved beyond XL into cooler stuff. I don't know how to use XL, and I don't intend to ever learn. So take that. I don't actually have any issue with XL. I just have never had to learn to use it like better than the basics, and so I, you know, don't know how to. Someday. Maybe. I just make the iPhone apps look pretty.